pitch did not convince UEFA, with Europe's governing body leading the opposition to the plan, announcing that its 55 members are standing unanimously against FIFA's plan. UEFA released a statement that said in part, quote, UEFA and its national associations will not participate in FIFA competitions. UEFA and its 55 member associations stand as one. We unanimously and unequivocally reject FIFA's proposal to transfer ownership interests in the World Cup and other FIFA competitions to private investors. The World Cup cannot be treated as an investment product. So everybody, UEFA have decided, their 55 member associations, they voted to boycott the World Cup if FIFA proceeds with this plan to sell to private investors. You said yesterday you wanted to see someone step up. Have you gotten your answer now?
It felt imminent that UEFA was going to make big moves. This is a big move, and their first test is in October, by the way. There's UEFA World Cup qualifying for the Women's World Cup in October. That includes them. They have to step away from that. Unfortunately, because it's FIFA and it's completely all-encompassing, the first ones to pay are the women's teams from Europe. And if this goes through, per what UEFA is saying, there's no European women's teams at the World Cup, but I don't even think we're going to get there, because this is a major power play to move out of FIFA, because then others can follow suit if Europe does it. But it's going to take a lot more, but this is a huge first move in dismantling this whole process.
Well done by UEFA for stepping up. Nico, on this desk, we called for action. We called who's going to show a spine, who's going to show a backbone. This isn't easy. It's easy for us to sit on this desk and say that. For what UEFA did with this statement, even after Czechia yesterday basically broke ranks, they got Czechia back in. If they hold to this, again, it is easier said than done, but well done to UEFA for being the ones to step up and being the first. Hopefully this paves the way as well for somebody else to say, you know what, maybe we're not going to let Gianni Infantino run unchallenged for the next presidential election. This was such an unbelievable heat check from Gianni Infantino for him using FIFA as like his plaything, and to try to do this after all the other things that he's tried to push through, and on the brink of, he was going to be run unopposed for the presidency. If this has at least shaken the cage and gotten people to say, whoa, somebody has to step up, somebody has to stand up. UEFA's doing it right now, and I hope that somebody does it in the presidential elections as well.
Yeah, great job by UEFA. This is a big domino. Gianni Infantino said in that speech, this is a proposal and it's an offer. And then he went on to say it's an opportunity but not an obligation. So now UEFA said, you know what? I saw the opportunity and I don't have the obligation to say yes to you, right? And we're saying no at this point, and we're backing out of this thing. And unfortunately, the Women's World Cup is the next big thing, right? Hopefully we find a resolution between now and then. If there's 40 or 20 million first and then eventually 40 million coming that can come through the system through FIFA to these member associations, they can find that money without private investment.
I think about the deadlines that are set, right? Because the first moment for UEFA to really say, all right, we're not participating in any competitions is in October. That comes after the 52 days that the 211 member associations have to either approve or walk away from this deal that Gianni Infantino is proposing to them. He can get a majority without the European nations, in theory, right? How many European member associations?
They're 26.1% Europe.
Okay, so there you go.
55.
Right? 55. In Africa alone, there's 56,
well, 54. Right. It's very similar.
One less. Okay, perfect. So you can get the majority without them. So we're going to get to a point in 52 days, if it does stay like this, and it's going to be FIFA versus UEFA all the way down to the wire, and then that's when we see the real schism. Like we've gone to a point that in 52 days, FIFA has to make a decision. Do we want to go into an all-out war where we are suddenly splintered? FIFA has never been splintered like this, where an entire confederation secedes from the NGO that is FIFA. Right? This is not a private company. Nobody owns FIFA. It's a non-governmental organization, a non-profit. And someone has come to the conclusion that they are making private investments for their own good. Infantino says that it's for the good of all the member associations. I'd like to understand a little bit more the transparency there. But UEFA has deemed it the opposite, that it's not good for them, not good for the NGO, for the spirit of football, and they've walked away.
What would the banker suits at JP Morgan say about the value of a men's or women's World Cup without European nations?
Yeah.
Because that's where the pressure is going to come from, right? Like, we talk about what is right, we talk about what should be, we talk about what's fair, we talk about what's due process. In the world, it's money. And particularly in this transaction, it's money. What will the valuation of these properties look like if the investment bankers, the consultants, are looking at if they believe that UEFA, that they're going to back up their words? What does that do to the value of the stake they're trying to buy?
Let's just say they go through, right? In 52 days, it's a majority yes vote.
But
so we're doing this thing. Hold up. They're doing this thing through 20 in the next 52 days. That valuation of the 21% of FFE that the private investors have was at what, 20 billion? Is that what JP Morgan valued it at? All right. Revalue that without Germany, Spain, Italy, France, England, what have you, Netherlands, Belgium. Where does that stand? You basically have a World Cup with Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, right, as previous World Cup winners. And then now, how do you reinvest, reconsider? What does that proposal become? And if we get to that, this is the crazy part. In 52 days, we might be in a reality where the football world is split in half. CONMEBOL's never going to secede from FIFA. CONMEBOL, Alejandro Dominguez, the president of CONMEBOL, and Gianni Infantino are like this. And then the second strongest person at CONMEBOL, which is the Argentina FA president, which is Chiquitapia, they're all like this. So that's never going to happen.
So you don't think we'll see other governing bodies now move away? Not
CONMEBOL, which is the biggest. After UEFA, it's CONMEBOL's the biggest one. CONMEBOL's going to be on FIFA's side. It's now up to AFC. It's now up to Concacaf.
Do you think they could be swayed?
You can't do it on CONCACAF alone because they're only 16% of the voting, right? If they got the African bloc,
but they won't.
Yeah, that's the tough one to get, and they would put the 50%. They would put it over 50%, right, with the African bloc. But they won't get that. They won't get a full bloc, I wouldn't imagine, right? So they need some help, UEFA, in this thing. If they're going to overturn this thing, it can't be done by UEFA alone. And keep in mind, there's probably a bunch of these member associations say, well, it's easy for you, right? It's easy for you, Spain, and it's easy for you, Germany or England, to say no to the money.
Right.
It might not be so easy for my federation to say no to the money.
I mean, think about what $40 million for a country like I swear, the Federated States of Micronesia. They're part of the member associations, right? A federation receives $40 million in St. Martin, in Lesotho, I don't know, I'm making up names here. You suddenly become one of, if not the most powerful entities in a country. That's how crazy this money is and how difficult it must be for a lot of these member associations to deny this. But then the whole incoherence of Gianni Infantino saying that there's this democratizing of football, right? It's a democratic process. You mentioned it yesterday, Tom. A lot of these nations that don't do heavy lifting in the branding of FIFA, because when we think of the World Cup, we think of the Germanys, the Brazils, the Argentinas, the France. Okay, but the heavy lifting in the majority vote are countries that rarely leave their fingerprint or footprint in the football world, that are getting this life-changing money.
And you talk about democratization. It's just an empty word with this governance body. In his in-house produced video, where he talked about something to an open dialogue is not an obligation, the open dialogue had Instagram comments shut off, social media comments shut off.
Yeah, he always does, by the way.
No, yeah, and there is not enough shame to people in the world. Like, we're sitting here, normal folks. If you said something to the effect of, this is an open conversation, and then cut comments, like, what a joke, man. Like, these are just the very small, inconsequential things of, there is not enough shame in the world.
I just want to mention, UEFA's statement did go on to say the decision from FIFA is irresponsible and indefensible and governance by intimidation. Nico, do you think Infantino is regretting everything he's caused?
I don't think
his
Infantino
job?
regrets a lot of stuff, but if you ask if it's costing his job, these are the power plays that weakens Infantino's status. Infantino's decisions, from the very superficial level, we see what's going on. Infantino's decisions has forced potentially a major governing body within FIFA to secede. Potentially. That unequivocally weakens his status in the football world. Yesterday, there were reports about Nasser El Khelaifi being a potential candidate to run against Infantino. I'd like to see that runoff. Imagine if this works for UEFA, like if you're thinking, and then you propose a candidate, say, hey, we're seceding because we don't think this is the right way, we're going to propose somebody else. I'd like to see how that all works out in an election in March. UEFA's putting the other member associations at odds. It's testing how much money they think they can accept from an offer versus if they really think that offer is good for football and good for their federation and the future of the sport and keeping the sanctity of the sport intact.
I just want to get you all caught up with it because it can get quite confusing. So FIFA are wanting to create a separate entity that deals with commercial and event operations, which they'd call FFE. That entity will be run by private investors. The money made on that entity will go out to the 211 countries that are involved with FIFA. So there's a lot of voting going on right now. And the big breaking news today is that UEFA, the 55 member associations of UEFA, have come out and said, if this all goes through, we will boycott the World Cups. And the next one would be the Women's World Cup that's happening next summer in 2027.
Actually, the first big tournament, FIFA-run tournament, is the Intercontinental Cup in December. So that would mean no PSG, right?
Yeah.
In that Intercontinental Cup, where I don't know where it takes place now, in Japan and Middle East. Regardless, you know what this feels like? Remember when the Super League was formed, and there was so much outside pressure. Slowly, the teams started pulling out. It was first the English teams, and then the Italian teams, and then eventually it was just Real Madrid and Barcelona by themselves.
Liga teams,
This is what it feels like, but times 10.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about major power plays to topple the structure as we know it of football in the world.
Look, I think we've come to the conclusion that the private investment is the part that's the sticking point, right? Is not giving federations money. Go back to, how about this? Go back to JP Morgan and say, okay, we came out of the meeting and we valued this at 20 billion, right? This marketing arm of the of FIFA.
21% of it. The minority stakes that the private investors would have within FFE.
Right.
Which is crazy. 20 billion just for 21%.
Right, which is essentially 4.2 billion, right? How do I get to a $20 billion valuation without including private investors? That would be my question to JP Morgan, because the private investment part is the part that the world, right, is getting hung up on. I want to do this, but 20 billion. Or do I take that out and make this entity just worth 16 billion at that point? And we lose 20% of it, right? Because it's the private investment part that people have a problem with. Because at that point, there's no end to it, right? This is the start of it at 21%, whatever it is. I'd rather see, if this is the people's game, I'd rather see open up a stock to the entire world and raise the 4.2 billion, right? From fans around the world. And let them enjoy whatever the fruits of the labor are.
At the end of the day, and with private investment, you don't know what the interests are behind the money.
It's always you always have to look at who benefits in the end, right? And why should, in this beautiful game, a few people, relatively few people around the world, be the guys that benefit from the Rodris of the world? And by the way, every other player in the world and every fan in the World Cup that make the World Cup what it is, make the sport what it is. Without fans, we have nothing in this sport. So there's got to be a better formula than we have right now.
There's a huge irony here, just because the people's sport, football, in theory, is the working class sport. It's the populace's sport, and it's become so popular that now the ultra rich, the 1% of the world, wants to take control of it. It's like swung in the other direction, and I think that's the power of the fans, of the people, And honestly, I want to give two people credit. I want to give UEFA credit for having a spine here because I don't think it was an easy decision to walk away, and the journalists that have been on this story from the very beginning. I know we live in a very fun, like, oh, who's my next transfer? Instagram, scroll.
Yeah, you making fun of me?
No, I'm actually I'm giving you credit.
Not me.
Not you, but
Not me.
The people in our industry that are getting the scoops, that are digging it up, that are getting the exclusive. Martin Ziegler at the Times, who was the first person to break it. That type of journalism, I'm so happy it is still alive, it is still vibrant, and because of that, not fancy catchphrases, nothing like that. It's hardworking journalists that probably won't get the flowers of more famous journalists that are breaking the story for the good of the game, because that's what they need. That talk about checks and balances that we didn't say that there was. At least journalists by trade, the journalism that I studied in school, the badasses that are out there sticking it to the man, those are the people that are helping dismantle this scandal.